Hi, I'm Marcia Lehman and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today we're at the home of another Master Gardener and we will be pruning a Spirea. That's Spirea prunifolia, often called Bridal Wreath Spirea. Now, the first thing you want to notice is it has this arching form, and we do not want to destroy that arching form. So rule number one on Spirea, never, ever, ever use a hedge trimmer and just give it a shave and a haircut. You really need to prune this thing, not just use hedge trimmers. It is a clumping shrub. You can think of it as a cane shrub, so part of the way that it gets pruned is we pay attention to the 4 Ds, but then we work our way into the bottom and take out about 1/3 of the older canes. Now you're looking at this shrub, it's taller than I am. This was planted about 3 years ago and it was in a 1-gallon pot when it went into the ground. So this is how much it's grown in 3 years. So regular pruning is important to keep up with removing about 1/3 of the older canes once you get to about this stage, at about 3 years. The older canes are going to be obvious because they're thicker, they're woodier, but the challenge is you often want to take them off all the way back down at the ground, or when you get something that I like to call a moonshot, like we got one here behind me, that just sticks out more than the others, it doesn't really have that draping, arching form, then you would take this moonshot and follow it back and take it off either at a branch node or all the way back at the main stem. Now, as you can see, this is pretty thick, so we're going to take a break and we're going to pull it apart so we can show you a shot in at the center. So we've pulled this apart so you can see the interior, but the first thing you notice is this funky looking growth. And if you guessed that that's the result of somebody clipping it off sometime in the past, probably because it hung over the driveway, that's the first thing we're going to take it off. We're going to take it off back here at a node rather than just a trim. Then the other thing we look for are some of the really spindly little things. So I've got my hand pruners, which is going to be the bulk of the work today. I have short-handled loppers to get into some of these tight spots, and they have all been sanitized. So I'm going to take off some of these interior. They are going to be kind of long, but they're really thin. I mean, they're maybe 1/8 of an inch in diameter. And the other thing I'm looking for is anything that is dead. You know, that's completely brown, so that comes out. So again, like most cane shrubs, we're going to start by removing the 4 Ds, anything dead, anything damaged, and that includes crossing branches because that rubbing will create a wound, diseased or dysfunctional. And in this case, dysfunctional would be it's hanging out over the driveway and it's going to scratch the side of the car. So instead of taking a hedge clipper, we would actually prune them back selectively. And in fact, you know, this one I would probably take off here at a branch node. Again, we don't really want to ruin the form of this shrub, so we need to be careful, but we need to get in here into the center because I've got lots of crossing branches and I've got some skinny little things, and because of the way it grows, they're going to be kind of long, but I've got lots to clean up here. And this is always the hardest part, to get in here in the center and clean out the spindly little stuff, the dead stuff, the crossing branches. And I'm going to focus on that, and then we'll come back and move it into shaping the rest of the shrub. I've made, I don't know, probably 20 snips, and what I was focused on was, I think I got 1, maybe 2 of clearly older branches, and the rest was focused on, missed one, spindly little things, you know, those that are about 1/8 of an inch in diameter, things that were crossing, rubbing, and the like. And the reason we're doing that is to improve airflow and sunshine into the plant. Now, in the last week, we've had 3 to 4 inches of rain in our area. And the airflow and sunshine becomes really important, because on 2 of some newer growth, I've actually found signs of some type of disease. Whether I would assume, based on weather conditions, that this is fungal, but you really don't want that to spread to the rest of the plant. So I took these out, even though these were new shoots. And that's just part of improving the airflow and sunshine into the middle of the plant for the overall health of the plant. Now, as you might have guessed, since this is such a full plant, we've been holding this back so we could show the center of plant. The next thing we're going to do is stop holding it back so it can take its natural form, and we'll continue trimming. When we're done, you're going to see a nice pile of debris because of all these long arching branches, but really you shouldn't see the pruning cuts because they're all going to be deep inside the plant. And that's the difference. If you took a hedge trimmer to it, it would be really obvious that you had cut it. And then at each of those cuts, you're going to get this spurt of growth, which is not healthy for the plant, and it's not its natural form. So we're going to pause. We're going to let the plant come back together in its natural form, and then we'll work on any of the moon shots or other things that need a little shaping on the outside. I've taken out a lot of stuff in the middle, and from the outside, it's not obvious. You don't see pruning cuts. Again, all those pruning cuts were made deep inside, but what you might be able to see is if I take my clipboard with this sheet of paper on it and put it down in here, you might just be able to see a bit of that white paper. And I can assure you that if I could have gotten my clipboard in there beforehand, you would not have seen that. So we have definitely cleaned out the middle for airflow and sunshine, and that will make a much healthier plant. So what's left to do is to address anything now on the outside that may need some touch up. And again, we're going to look for those things that are crossing rubbing, or perhaps clean up an older pruning cut where we get that growth at the end. And then we'll show you the pile of debris we have. You may have noticed that this shrub is along the driveway. So we do have an issue of some of the branches sticking out long enough that if we don't take them back now, before summer's over, they will be scraping the side of the car. And this particular one probably got trimmed for that reason before, but maybe not the best cut. So on this one, I'm going to take it off. Again, I'm not going to take hedge trimmers and just come in line with the driveway, but I'll come back here to a branch node and take it off. And if this will at least drape down, then the most it's going to hit is the wheel, the tire. Not a big deal. So we'll clean up a little bit of these, but again, always taking it off at a branch node. If you don't do the branch node, then you're going to get some funky growth at the end, which won't look natural. But I'm happy if it will at least drape down and not stick out. So now here, one of the things we noticed is that this is new growth. The leaves on the new growth are bigger than the leaves on the older stems, which I just find interesting. But again, I'm going to take that off back at a branch node, and I've left enough weight out here to pull it down. So as long as it's going to pull it down, I'm kind of okay with it. Now that means that some of these, like this is new growth. One of the options is to follow it back to where the new growth starts and take it off, and sure enough, that's back here on this stem. So we'll take that one off. And now you don't see that cut, but I've gotten rid of that one that was going to come out and hit the car. These are going to be fine. This one comes off the same stem. I'm going to take that one too. And I'm just going to work my way up along here, and anything that I think might hit the side of the car, I'm going to follow back into the shrub and take off at a branch node. Here's new growth again. Follow that back, that comes off there. More new growth. It is a rapidly growing shrub, so it probably needs some attention every year. Here's new growth. if I follow that back, that comes to here. This growth is not going to stick out and hit the car. Whoops, this one might. So let me follow that back. That comes off back here. And now, most of what's left here is very low. We can do the same thing if we don't want it. I generally don't like branches dragging on the ground, but if I want to trim some of this back, then I'm going to come back to where there is a node and take it off there rather than just cutting any old place. So that may take a little more cleanup, but always follow back to where there's a branch node. And this one I need to, and sometimes you need to follow it further into the shrub and find where it connects to a bigger stem. So there we go. So that's basically how to approach pruning a bridal wreath spirea. And as I say, you know, it definitely does not look like we gave it a haircut. We did thin it out. We showed you that you can now see into the center. We took out, you can take out up to 1/3 of the older canes. I would say I did not. I might have gotten 15 to 20%. But each year you can take out up to 1/3 and focus on the oldest, thickest canes. You know, keep it looking like it's a 3 or 4 year old shrub and enjoy the bridal wreath spray of flowers that you have in the spring. We have finished pruning this spirea. Now you may or may not have noticed that it's one of 3 spireas. It's the one in the middle. And we already showed you how you can now see into the center, which means sunlight and airflow can get in there. But if we move down here to the adjacent shrub, I guarantee you that if I stuck that sheet of paper down in here, you would not see it. And again, we have really thick growth. When you pull it apart, you start to see, you know, some spindly growth. You see some dead material that definitely needs to be removed. And when you get all the way down to the main stems, you'll see that 2 or 3 of them are big enough that they now need to come out. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like after. And frankly, you can't see the pruning cuts, and that's the sign of a good pruning job. So we've gotten it off the driveway. It shouldn't scratch a car. We've thinned it out for airflow and sunshine as we come into the hot and humid part of summer in East Tennessee. And now its neighbors on the left and the right need a pruning job too. Again, we hope you learned something today. Thank you for joining us.